Hi, and welcome back to the African Cinema Podcast. This is your host, Tendai, and today we are on episode 2 of our History of Nigerian Cinema series. And in this episode, we're exploring the golden age of cinema in Nigeria. This period, which roughly spans from the early 1950s to the late 1980s, is characterized by the use of celluloid filmmaking methods, a boom in local film and video production, as well as significant cultural and economic transformations following Nigeria's independence in 1960. Now, just a quick recap of episode 1. Our journey began in the 1900s at Glover Memorial Hall, where the first film was showcased, thanks in part to Herbert Macaulay's pioneering efforts. At that time, cinema was introduced largely by the colonial government and missionary churches, each using film as a tool to spread their respective messages. In the 1930s, the establishment of cinema houses led to the creation of regulatory bodies like the Board of Censorship and the Nigerian Film Unit to manage film production and exhibition. Now back to episode 2. As the new decade of the 1950s began, cinema houses in Lagos grew steadily. The government maintained a firm grip on these establishments, but the growing public appetite for film was undeniable. By 1954, the Nigerian Film Unit was recognized as an important sector within the industry, setting the stage for more structured local production. In 1957, Fincher was released. This was a landmark moment in the history of cinema. It was directed by Sam Zeba, and it was the first film entirely copyrighted to the Nigerian Film Unit, and also the first Nigerian film to be shot in color. The film tells the story of Fincher's struggles to understand the industrial changes brought by colonial modernization, examining tensions between tradition and innovation, and the impact of mechanization on local jobs. Although the film received mixed reviews, citing technical limitations and non-professional acting, the narrative resonated with audiences and tackled key themes of colonialism and industrial change. And on October 31st, 1959, Nigeria witnessed its first television broadcast. While this new medium didn't immediately threaten the established cinema houses, it began planting the seeds for future shifts in media consumption. With Nigeria gaining independence in 1960, a renewed sense of national identity and creative freedom emerged. A surge of locally produced films began hitting cinemas across the country. Simultaneously, a variety of films from America, India, China, and Japan competed for audience attention, with colorful posters adorning cinema walls and international actors becoming household names in Nigeria. In the wake of independence, the number of cinema houses in Lagos doubled, from 12 in 1960 to about 24 in 1975. As Nigerian entrepreneurs increasingly took over formerly foreign-owned establishments, encouraged by government policies promoting localized ownership. The late 1960s and 1970s saw a remarkable surge in locally produced films, particularly for Western Nigeria. Veteran theatre personalities like Hubert Ogunde, Ola Balogun, and Moses Olaiya transitioned from the stage to the silver screen, bringing indigenous storytelling to celluloid. And by 1972, the federal military government, aiming to curb foreign control in key industries, introduced the Nigerian Enterprises Decree, or commonly known as the Indigenization Decree. This policy spurred the emergence of indigenous playwrights, screenwriters, and film producers whilst promoting local ownership in the cinema industry. Despite this shift, foreign companies still played a significant role. For example, West African Pictures, if you remember them from episode 1, continued expanding and operating 6 cinema houses by 1975. The Mata brothers from Lebanon established their chain of cinemas, including Roxy Cinema at Apapa, Odeon and Central Cinemas at Ebutemeta, Idera Cinema, Mushin, and Plaza Cinema in Lagos. Indigenous entrepreneurs within this field faced difficulties in securing the capital needed to launch and run cinema houses, a challenge that often limited market entry despite the supportive policies. Between 1973 and 1978, the Nigerian oil boom created a surge of wealth, which had a direct impact on the film industry. This period also saw the construction of the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, a grand venue with 2 cinemas, each seating over 700 people. Built in 1976, it was designed to host the Second African Festival of Arts and Culture in 1977 and modeled after the Bulgarian Theatre of Culture in Vienna. For decades, celluloid was the primary medium for film production and distribution. However, as costs escalated due to advances in Western technologies, Nigerian production houses began seeking cost-effective alternatives. This led to the switch to video technology, which emerged as a critical turning point, enabling producers to cut costs and deliver more content per naira spent, a trend that would eventually reshape the entire distribution landscape. But still in cinema houses, locally produced Nigerian films began competing head-to-head with Western and Eastern films. Notable titles during the era would include Ogwajani by Ola Balogun, Aye by Hubert Ogunde, Kongi's Harvest by Ossie Davis, BC, Daughter of the River by Jabu Adu. These films left their mark on cinema houses at the time and were often considered to go toe-to-toe with their Western and Eastern counterparts. Even traditional performance troupes such as the Yoruba Traveling Theatre adapted to the cinematic format, producing films such as Ija Ominira and Owo Leagba, further cementing the cultural integration between theatre and cinema. While cinema remained dominant throughout much of the Golden Age, television broadcasting began to steadily increase its influence, adding another layer to Nigeria's vibrant media landscape. But more on the rise of television in episode 3. Now, to sum up, the Golden Age of Nigerian cinema was a transformative period marked by 5 distinct events. Firstly, a rapid expansion of cinema houses and the rise of local production following independence. Second, landmark films like Fincho that signaled the industry's creative ambitions despite technical challenges. Third, significant policy shifts such as the Indigenization Decree that spurred indigenous ownership and creative control. Fourth, the economic boost from the oil boom and the infrastructural investment it generated, exemplified by the National Arts Theatre. And lastly, a pivotal technological transition from celluloid to video that set the stage for future innovation. This era not only reshaped how Nigerians experience film, but also laid the groundwork for the dynamic industry we see today. Thank you for joining on this deep dive into the golden age of Nigerian cinema. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue exploring the rich history of African cinema.